And you hear that music, and you know what time it is right now. It is time once again, ladies and gentlemen, for another episode here of the Mass Steel podcast right now. And we got a lot of stuff to get into right now. Join me online currently right now, a friend of the show right now, who I usually have a good rapport with, and does a lot of great writing for CBS. I'm talking about Bryan DeArdo. You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Bryan DeArdo right now. We're ready to break down the NFL power rankings right now. Which team's stock has risen and fallen at this point in time as we go in? And plus, we'll get into a little bit more possible expansion of the playoffs from 14 to 16 as originally proposed in the preseason for 14 teams. And then Steelers versus Cowboys, usually one of our favorite topics we like to hit up almost every time we talk. Once again, you can also follow myself on social media on Twitter and Instagram at Prodigy Richie. You can also follow the Mass Steel Podcast at Mass Steel CJR and on Instagram at Mass Steel Nation. Brian, glad to have you be joining us right now. I don't know about you, but I know in Chicago right now, during this election term right now, it's good to at least have presidential election weather. I don't know about you in Ohio there. How you doing tonight?
We're good, buddy. We're good. Thanks for having me on the show. Looking forward to talking some football, as always.
There you go. That's what we're getting ready to get in right now. And speaking of which, right now, we looked at the first quarter, usually ahead of week 5, the last time you and I talked. We're doing this like every quarterly right now. You guys got the Steelers right now taking the number 1 spot. They were number 3 heading into week number 5. They moved up 2 spots. Right now, when we look at the top 10, as far as everything is concerned, there's been quite a few teams who's made quite a few jumps. Of course, no secret surprise with Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or should we say Tampa Bay right now. They are in the 4 spot currently. They jumped up 4 spots. They were number 8 at that point. And I got to tell you, one that's really been a surprising team has been usually gradually and gained with some confidence with Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. The Cardinals right there, who is at number 9. I think large in part, that's got to be a huge Sunday night upset victory over division rivals Seattle Seahawks. How do you like them so far at this point in time, Brian, right now, especially in Kyler Murray's second year?
I really like them, Charles. Last year they were in a lot of close games, and Kyler Murray did not have the experience. He did not have, William Fitzgerald's a Hall of Famer, but with respect to him, he didn't have necessarily a number 1 receiver per se. They went out and got him DeAndre Hopkins. I think the acquisition of Kenyon Drake's been great for them. They picked up his option just for this season, which, they'll probably re-sign him. I think they've seen enough from him where they'll re-sign him. The defense, I think, is what's really surprised me there. I did not see the defense getting that much better from last year to this year. Buda Baker, which I know Steeler fans remember him from last year, has really come on as one of the best safeties in the NFL, hard-hitting guy. And with, the Rams taking, they are what they are. They're not the team that went to the Super Bowl a few years ago. They have fallen back to the pack. They are fighting maybe for that 7th spot in the West. Seattle's the team to beat, but I think Arizona at this time is the second best team in that division. So, I really like where they are right now and like the progression of Murray. And I like Kingsbury a lot. He's definitely one of the guys like Tomlin in the coaching of the year running.
I definitely do think it does also help too for a guy like Larry Fitzgerald, who's in his 17th year, been like the franchise representative for that team tremendously. It helps to have a good quarterback in a long time since they last had guys like Carson Palmer and Kurt Warner, which is the last one who went to the Super Bowl. But strangely as this feels, I don't know about you, Brian. I know it's a little too early to call, but I would not be surprised. Let's say if both like the Steelers somehow do get back to the Super Bowl, we'll see the Cardinals return back there as well. See the crime right there, Super Bowl 43 rematch. How do you like that so far as a possible prediction? I know it's a little bit long ways for the Cardinals, but same spot right there at Tampa Bay.
I don't think we're going to see Arizona. I wouldn't be totally shocked. I think Seattle right now is the team that I would say is going to make it to the Super Bowl. Either them or Green Bay. Green Bay's red zone defense. They're actually playing San Francisco right now. their red zone defense is alarming to me. But I think it's going to be Seattle or Green Bay. I think that Arizona can maybe get to the divisional round. I just do not think they're quite tough enough yet. But I mean, they do have all the pieces. I don't think their defense is quite there yet. And as good as Drake is, I don't like teams where passing is your number one means of transportation. And you got to walk before you can run. And I think Arizona just making the playoffs this year for them is going to be the big achievement.
Well, if you had to choose amongst these teams right now, which team stock do you feel like is rising right now? Here are the teams like I selected for you to choose from. The Cardinals, who I just mentioned a few moments ago. Of course, we got the LA Rams, too. Even though they did lose to the Miami Dolphins this past Sunday, still had a huge victory over the Chicago Bears last week and a half ago on Monday Night Football. You got the Raiders, too, who are still kind of in the mix right there, getting that win over the Chiefs in their first half of their meetings. And then Tua Tagovailoa right now, still a little interesting to see how he does Lowe gradually taking over right now for Ryan Fitzpatrick. He seems to be the franchise guy. Who amongst those teams would you choose, or would you add one that I'm missing here?
We actually have breaking news in the NFL. I may have to get back to you later on the show if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Raiders have actually been fined just now $500,000. John Gruden $150,000, and a 6th-round pick has been found for violations regarding COVID-19 as it relates to Trent Brown's situation on a positive test. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and break this news publicly, and then I can call the show back and rejoin you.
Oh, no problem, man. Yeah, if anything, just if you can't, great. If I have you back on, that's fine. We'll see what happens. But Bryan, thanks a lot, man, for taking a few moments. Hopefully, we'll hear back from you a little bit. Thank you so much, Bryan.
Sounds good, man. Thank you.
All right, take care, buddy.
Here come the bus! Here come the bus!
And once again, you just heard Bryan DeArdo right now with some breaking news just announced right now. There's a few teams talking to a few picks right now. Once again, you can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Bryan DeArdo right now. We're discussing the latest power rankings that happened in the NFL right now. And as I was talking to Bryan, right now, when we look at the power ranking platforms for the Steelers at this point in time, when we look at 5 right now so far out of 5 out of 8 platforms there are number 1 in the power rankings. CBS right now, you just heard right now, me and Bryan discussing ESPN, Sports Illustrated, and USA Today. The only ones they are not number 1 in is NFL.com, where they're number 2 right now, heading into week number 9. Sporting News at number 2 as well. And then you also got Pro Football Focus right now, too, which they're at the number 4 seed in that spot. So those are the interesting things right there as we take a look at it. And, yeah, I think the Steelers right now, you got to be pretty much excited at this point in time. I always still maintain this year right now when we look at it, it still kind of has that 2004 feeling a little bit in the way. And somewhat of 2017. What the only difference is that when you had a guy like Devin Bush get injured, he got injured where it was like early enough in the season and where the Steelers still had time to look at things in-house and then see if they can make a reasonably trade in the acquisition of inside linebacker like Avery Williamson right there. I think it definitely the shoe fit well for a lot of facets with the Steelers in that regard. Simply when you got a frustrating situation with the winless Jets right now, who I believe lost all 8 of their games right now. Either they're purposely trying to tank right now for the season, but at the same time, too, I mean, is this just part of the plan right now? I mean, or is Adam Gase on the hot seat? I'm really surprised that he's still coaching, but as long as the organization right now, I kind of tend to wonder right now if there's any, still full of confidence with him that they're going to go into the rebuilding phase. Remember, too, the guy who signed Le'Veon Bell, he got fired in the 2019 season, which kind of put them in predicament, giving the guy a lot of money right there, did not fully utilize a guy like Le'Veon Bell with his capabilities as far as being a pass-catching receiver and another threat as far as on the offensive side. again, once again, if you guys want to tune into like the live stream right now, streaming live on Facebook right now, Man of Steel podcast on Facebook and Instagram. If you guys like both those platforms right there, you can follow it on Facebook at Man of Steel Nation, as well as same goes for Instagram, except the only difference is it's in all lowercase caps right now. Getting some fun stuff, like I said, right now. And we also got the latest injury report, too, for the Steelers and Cowboys going into this Week 9 matchup right now. And I know one of the things that was still being a little bit reported is like the quarterback going into this matchup. I know we mentioned yesterday on the podcast, on yesterday's show, as we take a look at it right now, just waiting for things to load up here. Just bear with me as we look at it. On yesterday's show, remember John Clayton was like on 937 The Fan with Andrew Filipponi and Chris Muller. And right now, when we take a look at it, Todd Archer, who's NFL Nation reporter for ESPN, who covers the Cowboys, said that it was going to come down between either Eric Gilbert and Cooper Rush, split the snaps in one day's practice. Now, when you look at a guy like Ben DiNucci, who starred recently in the 23-9 loss in Philadelphia, who actually had like one turnover being returned for a score right there, he's not going to be the number one guy going into this matchup right now. Steelers right now are trying to get like their first victory in Dallas since 2004, and that's been since Ben Roethlisberger's rookie year. As we take a look at it. Now, the Steelers and the Cowboys going into this is one of my personal favorite rivalries right here of all time. See me rocking the Mean Joe Green jersey right now for this contest. And it's just nice to hear him get his perspective on this game going into it. Still consider the rival right now, but team right now, like I said, you beat a good key divisional rival in the Ravens right now. You got to follow it up with a win in Dallas right now. 2-6 right now at this point doesn't mean anything, but at the same time too, I mean, you look at the Steelers and the Cowboys. The Steelers trail the all-time rivalry 15-17. That includes regular season playoffs. During the regular season, it is 13-16. Saw the Steelers last time they were able to win that game in 2004 by 4 points. 24-20 was the final score right there. And that's what the Steelers were really lighting it up right there. Going all in at that point and just really just having their way. I mean, a good, phenomenal rookie debut by Big Ben. And the defense was just definitely clicking right there. There was a lot of concerns right there about how often, like, was Jerome Bettis going to stick around? Was that going to be his final season? As it turned out, he was able to gut out for one more season. I mean, with them still having the Super Bowl in his hometown of Detroit the following year, which thankfully he did come back. But I got to tell you right now, when we look at right now, here is the latest injury report for the Steelers and Cowboys as we take a look at it for this contest going into this matchup here on the Matthew podcast. As we look at it, here was injury report reported by Missy Matthews earlier in the day. As for the Steelers right now, in this matchup here, you got about 9 players total on the report. And when we look at it, you got about 4 players, which includes 3 stars who did not practice on Wednesday. Here's an update to the guys right now. Today, we only had, for the guys who did not practice and Thursday's practice, we have 3 people, 1 starter. Those 3 people are Stefan Wisniewski, backup guard, still dealing with a pec injury. Remember, he was placed on the IR following the Giants' victory. Then you also have nose tackle Tyson Alalalu right now. He didn't practice today due to a knee injury. And then last but not least, backup nose tackle Isaiah Buggs, who's dealing with an ankle injury. He was limited yesterday, but however, he did not practice today. Now, the people who were participants in practice include quarterback Ben Roethlisberger, and then we also had safety Jordan Dangerfield. He's been a full participant all week, dealing with a quadriceps injury. Remember, he didn't practice all of last week. He missed the Ravens game, as a result. And then you also have Marquise Pouncey. He practiced today along with defensive tackle Cam Hayward right now. Remember, he was just added after those initial injury report that came out yesterday for Wednesday's practice report right here. Again, right now, if you guys want, feel free to comment on this podcast. Right now, feel free to check me out on Facebook and Instagram at Metasteel Nation. Got lots more to get into right now. And still got a lot of crazy things happening around us, including with the presidential election, which is another story in itself. And here we go. Bryan is back with us right now. There you are, Bryan, man. Just in the nick of time right now. We're just getting ready to talk some Steelers and some Cowboys, which I know is one of your and I favorite topics around this time, man.
Awesome. Glad. Yeah, Raiders have lost a draft pick, so pretty crazy. The NFL is not messing around with their COVID policy. But fortunately, the Steelers have done a really good job handling everything. As Steeler fans know, Marlon Humphrey tested positive. Participated in that Ravens game. But fortunately, no Steelers tested positive. So good news for Pittsburgh in that regard. I will say that the Steelers losing that bye week, and I'm sure you also watched Mike Tomlin's press conference on Tuesday. Definitely acknowledge the fact that they're stressed now related to the fact that his team has not had a bye and won't have a bye. I mean, they did back in week 4.
So are you saying it's confirmed it will be 16-team playoff format? Is that still pending?
Oh, that's definitely still pending. So what might happen is the Steelers I think the NFL might decide to delay the regular season or have 1 week between the regular season and the postseason. I definitely think that might happen, just to give everybody a chance to get their legs back and to get healthy and whatnot. The problem with that is you're kind of taking away the incentive then to get the number 1 seed. It still is a big prize to win, especially this year. If it's still a 14-team playoff, you're only going to get 1 team on each conference getting that bye. That being said, if everybody gets a week off, it's really not that much worth fighting for. So let's say that the Steelers and the Ravens play late in the season. And, the next time they play, or the Steelers have a late game where if they win, they get the number 1 seed. Well, if everybody's going to get a week off and they could rest their players, that's going to be an interesting decision for the Steelers, because what if they could either play all their players in hopes of getting the number 1 seed and risk an injury, or sit it out and not get the bye and not get the number 1 seed? Because if that way, if you got the number 1 seed, you're going to get 2 full weeks off, which I think that people might fear potentially losing, momentum, obviously, when you have that much time off. So it's going to be interesting. I don't think we're going to see a 16-team playoff. I just don't. I think that as you're seeing right now in the NFL with these positive cases, the league is still intent on getting all the games played on time as scheduled. So I do not think there's going to be a 16-game team playoff. That being said, I wouldn't be terribly surprised.
Yeah, you know what? The only other thing, what I would do too, as a suggestion, I think I mentioned this to you last time, if I'm not sure, but what you could also do too is delay the start of the first round of the playoffs and have it start around Martin Luther King weekend, same weekend when the NBA is planning to return. So that way you finish your 17-week matchups, right? I mean, just in case if games are lost or buys are lost right there, and some teams are forced to play through or forfeitures, whatever happens. What I'm saying is, in fairness to everybody, even though the fact if it does go up 16 teams, you got to play all 4 rounds. Just let the playoffs just delay it for another week. You could probably, the NFL could get what it ultimately wants, and where you could end the season on President's Day weekend.
Right. Yeah. So listen, I don't think anybody in the NFL, except for the teams that are vying for those that would be vying for those last spots, would like to see that happen. I think that as it currently stands, like I said, we are going to have the 14-team playoff. I don't know. I don't think it would be a terrible thing for the league if the more teams that are involved. But I think that the problem you're going to run into is oversaturation. There are going to be teams in there that really don't belong. And as much as Steeler fans would have loved to see the Steelers in the playoffs last year, they would have played the Chiefs in the first round. I don't think anybody thinks that necessarily would have gone well, considering the Steelers had lost 3 games in a row. I think that there's a reason why they only usually let 12 teams in. I think so. For example, the Raiders would make the playoffs if we expanded it to 16 teams, which isn't the Raiders are okay. The Bears would make it, but I think people would they agree that those teams are borderline playoff teams at best. I mean, I know that the Bears are 5-3, but I think when you just watch their offense, they're not that great.
I know I mentioned Steelers Cowboys a moment ago, but guess what that means if they did expand to 16 teams? The Raiders more than likely will get into the number 8 seed, and guess what that means? Steelers versus Raiders, another classic rivalry in the first round of the playoffs. How would you like that?
That's pretty cool. Not gonna lie. Last time they played the playoffs, which is wild.
Now, one other thing I do want to ask is I know we heard like Hall of Famers mention this, like Ray Lewis, Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin, he's got his own podcast. I don't know if you got a chance to hear it on Spotify and other platforms. It's called the Michael Irvin Podcast. And he was recently talking with Ray Lewis about like doing what the NBA should be doing with the NFL, creating like some sort of bubble environment. Has there been any like indications from what you heard right now as far as like if that were to happen? Is there a neutral site where you could split that up for the teams that would play from your understanding or any sources?
No, the league has no place for a bubble. They're going to continue to do what they're doing. What they have discussed is pretty much they've told the players pretty much when you're not at the facilities to go home and to spend time with your families. And when players test positive, that's one of the first things they're asked is, what are you doing outside of the facility? And if they don't really like the answers they're hearing, then the team could face disciplinary actions. Not necessarily the player, but the team. And that's where the team has been really emphasized to the players to make sure that you are doing a good job with your own accountability, making sure that you're doing the right things. Randy Finkner today said he hasn't got a haircut, he hasn't got a restaurant, he hasn't gone grocery shopping since March 16th. So, Randy Finkner's taking it seriously. The Steelers apparently are taking it seriously, which is why since the season started, they haven't had any positive cases.
Well, when you're a team like the Steelers, no respect to Randy Finkner. I mean, there is such a thing as like not messing up the haircut, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
absolutely. I don't think Randy Finkner's really stressing about that. But when you look at the Cowboys game, I thought it was interesting when Mike Tomlin said this week that watching film, they reminded him of the 19 Steelers, where Tomlin can see the stress in their eyes as they try to figure out what they're going to do now without Dak Prescott.
Right, yep.
Tomlin said what the 19 Steelers did, they leaned on their strengths and they tried to make the game as easy as they could for the quarterbacks. And I think that the Steelers expect a lot of Ezekiel Elliott. They're going to expect a lot of Amari Cooper, a lot of CeeDee Lamb, and they're going to expect a Dallas team that's going to be hunting for turnovers. They had 4 against the Eagles. Trayvon Diggs, their talented cornerback, had 2 interceptions. Now, the problem was Dallas could only convert those turnovers into 3 points because the Eagles' defense was able to do the job and come up with stops, and the fact that the Cowboys' offense wasn't that good. So if the Steelers can take care of the ball, they can minimize what Zeke Elliott and Lamb and Cooper can do, they should be able to win this game. Where they're going to get in trouble is they allow too many popcorn plays and they turn the ball over. Those are going to be the things that could undo the Steelers if they were to happen to lose this game.
Yeah, and to be honest, to add to your point, too, I mean, don't forget, it also helps when you have real good receivers like there. I mean, CeeDee Lamb has definitely been a surprise right there. Speaking of which, I actually got him on my fantasy team for this year. Definitely been giving me some good points, along with Amari Cooper. The only question is going to be right now with the Cowboys, too, going through this game. There's a possibility that a guy like Ezekiel Elliott may not even play in this game. I mean, dealing with a hamstring injury. He's been limited in practice all week right now. Close possibility, but I mean, at the same time, too, you gotta think right now, it's like they're playing us against the world right now. And plus, you got a very sloppy division that is still up for grabs. I think the Eagles should be the ones slowly starting to gain traction right now. But then again, you still got some time to make up right there. And it's a real close decision where Jerry Jones, if he's going to still go all in this season or decide to blow his team up real soon with their cap issues coming up.
been a loss like a Ben. You're talking about the COVID situation, or
Well, no, I mean just in general, because I heard like right now that Cowboys may be having to like look into like breaking up like a lot of their team right now. Because
I'm so sorry. No, I think that they're going to let younger players play more, which essentially is that tanking? I don't know if that's tanking, but they're not necessarily putting an emphasis on winning anymore. I think that they see the writing on the wall. They see that Philly now is starting to stretch out further now in the NFC East. They're not going to, on purpose, lose games, but they're not going to, I think for them that they're realists and they understand. That's the difference between them and the Steelers. The Steelers were 0-3, 1-4 last year. They didn't punt on the season. They decided to do everything they could because there's a culture thing there. You never want to accept losing. You never want to go into a game expecting to lose. And I think that's kind of the issue that Dallas has run into, is that they're pretty much accepting losing. And yeah, I mean, you're going to see – I don't think you'll see it in the first quarter of this upcoming game, but I think that next week or I meant the second half of this next game, you could see the Cowboys start to play younger players if the Steelers stretch out their lead to double digits. And I think that's how Dallas is going to approach the season going forward, is that, they are going to go out intentionally with the intention to win. But if it starts to get away from them, they won't hesitate at all to put in younger players, get them playing time, potentially at the expense of winning games.
Well, we're being joined by Bryan DeArdo. He writes for CBS for the National Football League. Follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Bryan DeArdo. I mentioned to you earlier in the show, too, whose stock was rising right now. Speaking of teams right now, let's go like a divisional proposition right now. Which amongst these divisions I'm about to name you right now would you choose has a strongest division and probably have the most representatives in the playoffs? The AFC North, the NFC West. I know the 49ers are starting to go a little south right now. It's looking less likely they'll be back in the playoffs when you lose guys like Bosa, Garoppolo, and Kittle for a long period of time. And then you also got the AFC West. So once again, the AFC North or the NFC or AFC West. What would you choose amongst those divisions?
Upper division?
Yeah, I mean, and have a good possibility of representing more teams in the playoffs.
I think both teams will get 3. And I think the Rams the Rams only wins against the NFC East. So I'm not quite sure how good the Rams are, but I think they're good enough. I mean, Aaron Donald's a menace on defense. The defense has gotten a lot better. They changed defensive coordinators. I like Jared Goff. I think he's a good quarterback. Not an elite quarterback, but a good one. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are really good receivers. I like their new running back. I like the Rams as a 6 or 7 seed. Seahawks, I think, should and will be the number 1 seed. I think the Steelers or Ravens will be the 1. I could see the Steelers being anywhere or the Ravens being anywhere from 1, 2, or 5. Because if you don't win the division, all of a sudden you're going to fall all the way down to 5. That's why for the Steelers it's going to be imperative to try to win the division, because you don't win the division, you go from potentially being the 1 to the 2 seed all the way down to 5. So it's going to be imperative for them to win this division, and I think they can. I think the Ravens have really taken some steps backwards, and I think that the Ravens, the way that they're using Lamar Jackson right now, is inexcusable. To be honest with you, I don't understand why they continue to have him absorb all those blows. I thought that they would try to expand the offense. They haven't. They did not do a good enough job getting him receivers. I think the West is a better division just because I don't really think the Browns are that good. Even Browns fans are still – the verdict's out right now on Baker Mayfield still. So I don't quite think that the Browns are yet a contender, and their defense really hasn't gotten much better either over the past year. I think the Browns in general now, if they get Nick Chubb back, maybe they'll be better. But losing Odell Beckham, I think, hurts them more than people think.
Yeah. Now, also, too, NFL MVP candidate at this point in time down the stretch, I say it's got to be between either Brady or Russell. I'm going to probably go with Russell Wilson, considering that Brady has already won it a few times. Say you on those two.
One more time, you broke up there. I'm sorry.
My bad. NFL MVP candidate, as we're looking right now, I know the Buccaneers right now looks like they could be scary dangerous right now with the addition of Antonio Brown finally. shoe only fits that Antonio Brown rehooks up with Tom Brady. No, we heard reports the Ravens, but then you still got a guy like Russell Wilson who's never won the MVP yet for the National Football League. If you had to choose between those two right now, you could project that could end up winning that award. Who would that be?
I think that he should have won it last year. Well, I don't say should have, but he was in the conversation last year. So there's that narrative, right? There's that narrative that he should win. I think it should be either him, Rodgers, or Ben. And I would be okay with any of them winning it. I mean, I think it's understood now that, like, the fact that Rodgers is only getting this much help, they didn't draft a receiver, which is inexcusable. They're going to beat the 49ers tonight. I think it should be either of those three, but I think Ben is going to be in the running for comeback player of the year with Alex Smith. But I think that the MVP should go to Russell Wilson. His numbers are phenomenal. His interceptions are up a little bit, but he's on pace for almost 60 touchdown passes. It's unheard of. But yeah, Russell Wilson, in my opinion, deserves the MVP this season. What say you?
I'll probably have to go with Russell Wilson only for the fact that, ever since they broke up the Legion of Boom, I mean, it's been portrayed by many people in the media that Pete Carroll, the relationship and rapport he has with Russell Wilson, he's been kind of trying to help like a system with build the image as his team, like for like a legacy moment, if you really think about it, because the last couple of years, it kind of reminds me what the Steelers went through about like 8 years ago when they broke up their last shutdown defense after 2012. It started transitioning over to the Killer Bees right there. You started seeing Ben Roethlisberger with Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell right there, numbers exploding. I just feel like right now, I mean, this is a chance for Russell Wilson to prove that he could put a team on his back and win a Super Bowl, without that legendary defense they had before. I mean, they still got a good, legit defense right now, but I think just for the fact that he's never won it and trying to build in the image of his team, I definitely still have to go with Russell Wilson. The only thing that I think could still hurt him, depending what happens in their second matchup versus the Cardinals, I expect them to split that. That's the only dagger he's got on them right now, losing that Sunday night game in overtime.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting, though. I would be upset, to be honest, if Ben didn't win comeback player of the year. I know that a lot of my colleagues actually did an 11-person vote the other day. 7 people picked Alex Smith, 4 people picked Ben. Nobody else picked anybody else. Alex Smith, amazing story, awesome story. It's amazing that he's back. But it has to be performance-based, right? He's not playing. I commend him for coming back on the field. To me, you have to do something on the field. And I think what Ben did at his age, that elbow surgery, and I'll be honest, I was one of them. I wasn't sure how good Ben was going to look. Not having Antonio Brown, not having Le'Veon Bell, not having a quote-unquote elite player beside him, having a year removed from surgery, but he's in amazing shape. He's throwing the ball quicker than any quarterback in the league, which wasn't always his thing. He's the main reason why the team is 7-0. I would be legitimately upset if he did not win comeback player of the year.
No, and I think a guy with a case like Ben Roethlisberger too. I mean, listen, he realizes he doesn't have to put the pressure on him anymore. I mean, his comments said it all when he said he came back there with a special group talent they have, not on just on defense, but offense as well. Sometimes in a case like that, I mean, when you make a comeback like that, you don't necessarily have to be the lead guy, but you could still be like the director in traffic, make things work, communication, and the flow and rhythm. I think is enough for a guy like Ben Roethlisberger, if you ask me.
Right. And I think defensive player of the year. I mean, Watt is going to be in that mix. Aaron Donald, I think, is the front runner. But there's not a lot of other players other than that. Those are really the only 2 that I would say are really entrenched there. Offensive player of the year could be Derrick Henry. I think it's going to be Mahomes. It should be Mahomes. Or it could be Aaron Rodgers. I think, those are kind of the handful of guys necessarily there. Defensive rookie of the year, I think, should be Antoine Winfield Jr. Here's something that should not happen. Antonio Brown winning comeback player of the
year. I mean, the only way you can probably do that, just don't take off the TB12 hat, I guess, right?
Right. Now, are you cheering for him? Are you hope he has success? What is your thoughts there?
Honestly, man, you know what? Despite all the drama he's went through, I mean, a lot of it I realize is self-inflicted, but I got to be honest with you. When I heard earlier in the year going to like the week of the Super Bowl, when he had to have a tracking vest on him that was ordered by him in court, I really literally went to sleep crying on the inside. It just, you know what? You just realize a guy hit the lowest of all lows right there. And just, you never want to hear that with anybody. We all make mistakes. I mean, a lot of things. I mean, he aired out a lot of his dirty laundry, but he's being smart promoting himself. I'm still a fan of people deserving to get second chances. I mean, the thing is, I mean, if you, at the end of the day, the NFL, it's a business. You don't think they like the idea that he's back in there because one, he could drive ratings for offensive production. And it's funny how like a lot of teams are still barely balking at him. You could say what you will about the pending litigations that are on him, about what could still alter his career, but at the same time, it's no secret that his production cannot be denied. And to be honest, you know what? Bob Pompiani of 93.7 The Fan and KDKA in Pittsburgh said he deserves to be a Hall of Famer. And with that caliber of talent, I like to see him get rewarded with a Super Bowl one day. And it might be this year. We'll only time will tell with that. The only thing is, I do feel surprised on is Bruce Arians having to admit finally that he's seen some change in Antonio Brown. That seemed to be the key point right there. But Brady obviously went to bat for him big time, and clearly it looks like unfinished business from those two.
Yeah, and Chris Godwin's had some injuries. Scotty Miller has for them. And I think that I think Brown will be a good compliment for that offense. But I think that the main thing that what that does, that can maybe give Mike Evans less double teams. Mike Evans is a really good player. He's a good fantasy. I have him on fantasy. He's never going to torch it up, but he's a good player. And he's got 6 or 7 red zone touchdowns this season, or 7 games in a row with a red zone touchdown. Really good player. But even he said after the Buccaneers' last game, Brown can take some attention off of him. And the Buccaneers also have some really good younger players. Rookie Tyler Johnson from Minnesota slipped to the 5th of the 6th round this past year. I think a lot of people thought he'd be more of a 3rd or 4th round pick. He's starting to play a lot more in the offense. I don't think that you're going to see Brown go in there and have 12 targets like he used to. I think it'll be a 4 to 6 catch a game kind of guy. Maybe later in the year might have closer to 7 or 8 catches, but I don't think you're going to have Brown have nearly the numbers that he used to. If I could project, I would say with the next 8 games of the year, I would say maybe Brown finishes around 500 to 600 yards, maybe 4 or 5 touchdowns, 40 to 50 catches. Still a really good player, but he's not going to become the focal point of that offense. I think where Brown really can show his mettle is the playoffs. When defenses get better, when you really have to have a go-to guy. I'm hoping for the best for Brown too. I have no more ill will towards him. He gave the Steelers a lot of great memories. It ended very badly. And then his personal life, obviously, he made a lot of terrible decisions. I hope he's matured. So I think I wish well for him.
Please give me your prediction for this Sunday's game, Steelers versus Cowboys, late afternoon game. I still maintain, along with Joe Green, I'm sure many other people side with me, this is still a trap game. What's your result and final score prediction for this Sunday for the Steelers and Cowboys in Dallas?
I picked 28-12. I don't think that Dallas, maybe the first 10 minutes of the game, might do something, might get the Steelers off guard a little bit. Remember, the Steelers, although has been banged up, and Isaiah Buggs has not been practicing. So there could be a little void there in the middle of their line, which Dallas is definitely going to try to exploit. And I think maybe at the end of the game, Dallas may have some success because the Steelers, quite frankly, will kind of be in cruise control. But I think the first and last 10 minutes of the game, Dallas may have some success, but I think that middle 40 will pretty much be run by the Steelers. They're getting 13.5 points. I don't think they'll hit that number, but I do think they'll win 28-16. I don't know if Steelers fans are going to love giving up 16 points, but like I said, whenever you're facing an unknown quarterback, an unknown commodity, it is a little bit harder for you to adjust. So I think, because of that, Dallas will maybe get some points that they maybe don't deserve, or maybe the Steelers fans should think that they don't get. But I think Ben will settle in, will play well. He's always played well in Dallas. The first couple of times he's been down there, was down there as a rookie and won. In 2012, he played well down there. And then that defense will settle in after a while. I think Ezekiel Elliott will have his moments. Cooper and Lamb will have their moments. But I think that the Steelers are still they're just way too deep. And I think Ebron's going to have a really good game. It's going to be interesting to see who they have Trayvon Diggs covered. If it's Juju, Claypool, and Deontay Johnson should have success. If it's Claypool, then you might see Johnson or Juju have success. Regardless, I think Deontay, if he's healthy, will have success. Whenever he's been healthy, he's done really well with Ben. But when he's been injured, which is often, he kind of vanishes. So yeah, that's what I think. And I think you're going to get another good game from Connor. I predict 100 yards from Connor, and maybe more carries from Snell and McFarland, because Tomlin even said last week he wasn't able to get them in the game. So you're going to see a very well-balanced offense. I think 28 points. I don't see them covering the spread, but I see them winning the game by 12.
Yeah, the Cowboys' run defense is ranked last in the league real quickly. And last one, before I get you out here, just a fun little option to choose from I just came up with. What's your favorite platform to watch, like your sports documentaries? ESPN 30 for 30, HBO, or Showtime?
Kobe Bryant's Muse. I think that's on Showtime. The Last Dance is probably my favorite documentary, one of my favorite ever. I love the OJ Made in America, even that's not necessarily a sports documentary. What's his name? Vlade Divac's documentary, Once Brothers, is one of my favorite.
I got another good one for you too when you get a second.
Go ahead.
I actually was listening to this while I was doing my research. There's one on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar from HBO when he came to the league.
Party of One or something like that?
I think so. I'll text you later on, but that was a real good one right there. I gotta tell you, I'm just streaming it right now, HBO and Showtime, and I gotta tell you, especially those two platforms, either one you cannot go wrong. I still get blown away. Their documentaries, the way they do things, they're truly the masters and cream of the crop as far as documentaries go. The detailing, the lighting, the storylines, their interviews right there. I just found it very fascinating right there. I mean, just especially at the time when you look at stuff going on right now in today's society and what he's had to endure right there. I mean, and then change his name from Lou Alcindor to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar the day after he won his very first NBA championship right there. The criticism he got, his house being on fire in 1983 right there, losing a lot of stuff like his dad's jazz music albums and stuff right there. A lot of people were nice enough to help him out right there. When you think of GOATs right there, you still had to put Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on that Mount Rushmore right there amongst any when you talk Jordan, Yellow, and Bill Russell or LeBron James.
Right. Yeah, and the basketball ones, I mean, Detroit Pistons, Bad Boy one, the Dr. J one. I think NBA TV's done a lot of good ones. The Dream Team one is good, right? Yeah, I think the 30 for 30s are still the cream. But man, it was awesome joining you. Sorry,
likewise.
We took a little break there.
No, it's perfectly cool, man.
Yeah, looking forward to the Steelers game, and settle in, enjoy the second half of this Packers game. They're pulling away right now. The 49ers are trying to hang on for hope here. So, yeah, man, always fun to join you, and let's hope that my predictions are right. And if the Steelers win by more, that's more than okay with me.
I would not be surprised when it starts that the Steelers are in a 10-0 hole and they slowly, gradually come their way back in there, probably escape with a field goal. I mean, it's to be expected. Bryan, my man, thank you so much. You stay safe, man. And like I said, many more success to you. And thank you for always keeping each other in the loop. You take care, my man. You rest up, okay? Enjoy the game, man.
You too, buddy. You too. Take care.
Take care, Bryan. Bye-bye. And once again, that was Bryan DeArdo right there. He writes for CBS Sports for the NFL right now. You can follow him on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, at Bryan DeArdo right there. It's definitely going to be an interesting game this Sunday. I do not expect this to be a convincing win by any stretch by the Steelers, to be honest with you. I would not be surprised if they find themselves trailing early in this game and then just slowly escaping by a hair, to be honest with you. We've seen that a lot with many Steelers games, but only time will tell. Once again, this is going to call up for a wrap for this edition here of the Mass Steel podcast. Once again, you can follow me on social media, on Instagram, at Prodigy Richie for the Mass Steel podcast, on Twitter, at Mass Steel CJR, at Mass Steel Nation on Instagram. As always, leave it. Don't be trolling, be rolling.